You can come in. Excuse the mess.
I have 3 kids, come on. I know.
Yeah, this thing with Morris Cummings is out of control. He started stalking me almost exactly 7 years ago. It was August 2008.
Okay.
I called at the time we were in the park. In fact, other women on the street who had dogs at the time complained about him, and the way they made it sound like it was because he was an inconsiderate dog owner. The dog would be off leash, running to their dog. They say something, he'd get really verbally abusive and hostile. So when they told me about it, I thought, it's not an issue. I don't have a dog. I'm not a dog walker. So one day I was in the park and walking, and the dog was off leash, and the dog started running toward me. And I said, "Sir, can you get your dog?" And he got really verbally abusive. "My dog's not bothering me. Can you get the dog?" "My dog's not bothering me." And the dog jumped on me, and I kicked the dog off me, and then he told me, "I'm going to kick your ass. Don't you touch my dog again." And he got in my face, and he's a short guy, but he stopped. Okay. And so he got, in my face. And we had words, and I pulled out my phone to call the police, and he started laughing, and he said, "And what are they going to do?" Wow.
So no fear.
No fear. Right. So I came, and we were right here in this part of Glenfield Park. So I walked out of the park into my house, so he saw me come home and see where I live. So the police officer came.
Was it Montclair or the county?
It was Montclair who came. And the Montclair officer who showed up, actually, when I bought the house in December 2003, that spring, like March or April, it was actually April, I don't know exactly when it was April, someone tried to steal my car off the driveway. And the officer who responded to that call was the same officer. And he remembered me. And we were talking, and I explained to him what I explained to you, and what I explained to him. And I told him, I said, "This guy is aggressive. There's no fear. And this is not about dogs, unlike how, I originally took it. This guy is harassing women. And you need to do something about him." So he said, "Let me go talk to him, and I'll see what he says." So he goes in the park. He talks to Morris Cummings. He comes back, and he says to me, well, his version was, he was getting out of the car, picking up trash, and the dog got away from him. Right. It makes no sense, right? Because, and his car was parked right across the street, right? How are you picking up trash right there? How's the dog? And I told him, I said, if think about the story, it doesn't make any sense. But he knows you all are going to accept this explanation. Clearly, he has experience with this.
And he said to you that...
Right, they don't do anything. And I said, you all need to take this seriously. This guy is out of control. So while I'm on my porch talking to the police officer, I'm right there on the porch, Morris Cummings comes out of the park and starts across the street. And I said to the officer, "Where is he going?" "Oh, he's coming to talk to me." I said, "Not on my property, he's not. He just threatened me." Right. I said, and this is the game he's playing. Now, he's already said you all aren't going to do anything, and then he's going to intimidate me with you standing here by coming in on my property. So the officer turns around and says, "Oh, don't come over here. She's a little upset right now." I said, "You just greenlighted his behavior. That's what this is about. This is about power and control. But I have a right to walk a public street and go to a public park and do all that without being harassed and intimidated and threatened." I said, he is out of control, and he's going to hurt somebody. So from that day forward, throughout the rest of the fall, he would come and park across the street from my house, and he'd slam the doorbell out, and he's looking at the house, and he prompts the dog to bark. And so usually I'm up pretty early, between 5:30, 6 o'clock. So it didn't necessarily wake me up, but it's
troubling when
right, and so I'd watch, and so I would wait until didn't see his car to go in the park and walk. So it reached a point where he stopped parking across the street, and I don't know if this was deliberate to catch me in the park or not, but he stopped parking on this side, and he would park on the other side of the park, right on Maple. So when I would go through, I didn't know it was there. Right. So I'd get over, and he'd be there, and he'd take, even if the dog was leashed, he'd take the dog off the leash and send the dog after me. And it's a little dog, but the point is, but it's harassment, and that's right, and it's stalking at this point with all this showing up, right? And then what was interesting was, prior to that August day, I had never seen the man before, right? I had never noticed him before. I don't know where he came from. I don't know how long he's lived in town. And I bought my house in December.
So it sounds like he was looking for something.
He was looking for something,
and he just happened to be...
Right. So, so I get to the other side of the park, and, he do these things. So I stopped walking the park and began to walk the neighborhood. Well, then he began to appear in the neighborhood. And he'd drive up behind me. "You're no good stinking black bitch. That's all yours, a no good stinking black bitch." Now, I have a video of him saying that.
Do you know where he lives?
Yes, he lives at 283 Orange Road. See, all of his behavior is gender biased, and I've been telling people that for 7 years. So, the winter came, and so you're not out as much. And the first nice spring day, it was April, and I know exactly the date. It was April 10th, 2009. because it was Easter, it was an Easter weekend or Palm Sunday weekend, which is a big holiday for me. So I
Absolutely.
got up that Saturday, it was nice, but rain was coming.
Okay.
So I threw on gear to go and get a good, quick run around the park before the storm started. I get to the other side of the park, who was there, and the whole is him. I didn't have anything, I hadn't taken my cell phone, all I had was my keys because I was washing. So he takes the dog off leash again and sends it after me, and he had just done spring cleaning in the park, so there's nothing there. So I dig around, I find a stick, and I chase the dog out of the park with the stick and chase the dog under his car. So when I turn around, he had come up behind me.
Real close.
But I didn't sense he was there. But when I turned around, he had what turned out to be was hot oatmeal. He threw the hot oatmeal in my face. And it scorched me, and then he drew back and punched me. And I call it now the Ray Rice punch, since and that's what it was.
Did Montclair come then?
Well, they did. And in the meantime, from that August to, I don't know, November, probably, the fall of the year, he was really persistent then when I would call, and then they start telling me, we can't come, we don't patrol Glen Park, which isn't right. We can't come, we don't patrol Glen Park, you have to call Essex County. I call Essex County.
Well, they shouldn't even do that, they should
show up.
Technically, it's true. However, they should still respond, and then they notify Essex County.
So I've been around, and I know that. I've been around and around the Mulberry Bush with them. But what turned out, the first police officer didn't take a report. So we had no name. So when I called and I reported him, like, this is the same guy 2 weeks ago.
That was on your porch?
That was on my porch. And he told me, he said, your stories are different. There's nothing I can do. When I saw him, he had the dog on leash. There's nothing I can do. And I told him, I said, this is not about dogs. This is about power and control. He's using that dog to intimidate people and set up situations where there can be a response. So he didn't take a report. So when I began to call back, they're like, oh, who is he? We can't do anything because you don't know who he is. Well, so he was parking the car across the street. So one of the days he parked the car, I waited until I didn't see him. I took a picture of the car, picture of the tag, and I sent it to Montclair and the sheriff's office. Montclair Police Department didn't respond. Essex County responded. We have the car, but the driver of the car isn't necessarily the person. See who's the person, we don't know who the person is. So on the day that he sent the dog after me, after I got some distance, I stepped back and I took a picture of him with the dog, right? And I send that to him still, everybody, all these reasons they can't do what they do. So when we get to that April and he attacks me, right, and I call the Montclair Police Department, they do the same thing. Oh, we can't come. I said, okay, you know what, I've heard this story before. I'm so sick of this. And I said, and now we've got a bigger problem because this man has attacked me. So I called Essex County. They said it would be 40 minutes before they could get here. So what do you do? I had to wait. So I took off, washed my face, took off the oatmeal. It was pretty upset, had my pride, and waited for folks to show up. So at that point, like 6 officers descend on my house. And they're, tell us what happened, and then the neighbors are coming out because it's a spectacle. And the next door neighbor, oh, they're going to get him, who is a problem, different problem, but anyway. So all these people are there, and the officers talking, and I said, wait a minute, guys, we've got a completely different issue. Because I've been calling about this man since August.
It shouldn't have come to this. 2008,
it shouldn't have come to this. Right, there were all these reasons you couldn't do, because I was telling the history, and they were like, well, why didn't you do it? I did. I called you, I wrote you letters, I took pictures. What else was I supposed to do? So they look, and of course they realize they've got a problem because they didn't investigate. So, are you sure? Absolutely. And at the time, my home office was in this area. Now it was in the room. It's my space to come get called. But I went in and I made copies of the photographs and the letters, and I handed it to them, so they're reading them. And one officer, and I don't know the Montclair officer, and he's like, clearly she's upset, and clearly she doesn't want our help, so I'll let you guys take care of it. I said to the Essex County Sheriff's Department. So they left, the Montclair police officers left, Essex County stayed, and they took the information, and they left. And I left and went to the hospital because when he punched me, I swung the stick to keep him from punching me, and he pulled my arm and pulled my shoulder out. So I had to go to the doctor.
Dislocated?
It wasn't completely separated, but I was in a lot of pain. It was sore, and I now have encapsulitis of the shoulder. So there are times I can't reach up because a calcium deposit started. So, this story is horrendous. Oh, no, just see, this gets nothing but worse. So I go to the doctors and I tell, and actually the chiropractors, some people say, oh, they're not doctors, but that's who I need to see. They are doctors. So they did the adjustments and I talked to them and I came home. And when I was coming home, the sheriff's officer told me, if you see him again, sometime today, call us. Okay. So when I was driving down the road, I saw him parked in front of the post office, the Greenwich post office. So I called you all. You all said you couldn't come. Essex County had to take the call. So they told me, I transferred to Essex County. Essex County told me to sit out of sight so he couldn't see me and they would send somebody. So I parked on Woodland in front of the school, clearly. I could see his car, but clearly, unless he was coming up the street, you couldn't see me. Essex County took, 20 minutes, whatever it was to get there. So by the time they got there, he was gone. So I came home and they kept telling me, when you see him again, call. So by that point, right, the trauma sets in, and I called my family members and different people, and and I didn't tell my dad, because I didn't want to but I was telling my mother and my aunt. So like that next week, I went home, and my mother asked me what was going on. I said, well, I haven't heard from the police. They haven't told me they've identified him or done anything. I don't know what's happening. Well, my dad overheard me telling my mom what was the update, and of course, he didn't have all the history. My father had hypertension. His blood pressure went up and never came down. 2 months later, he died of a massive hemorrhagic stroke.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry.
So it was, stressful. So we set all of May. So this is like the end of April when my dad found out. So we set all of May with my father being in the hospital till early June when they released him. They released him a week later. He had the stroke. So I had gotten consumed with family stuff, but I still hadn't heard from anybody. Right. So, just so happens, it was like the day before or the day my dad, because he passed in the afternoon, I took the pictures and things and I sent them to a private investigator and asked, and tagged and asked who was the person. And they ran the information, gave me an identity. So I went home, I was home most of June, I went to Maryland, took the, with my family during the funeral. So when I come back, of course I'm insistent now, you guys are gonna do something about this. So I contacted the sheriff's office again, and are you sure you want to follow the plan? Absolutely, I'm sure. I said, this isn't a misunderstanding. This isn't a matter of neighbors disagreeing over, something that people might see differently. I've been stalked and harassed and attacked by this guy, and he's not going to stop because
this going is just going to escalate.
Right. I said, this is going to get nothing but worse. This is who he is, and he does it. He was right. You all aren't doing it. So I go and I file the complaint. The sheriff calls down to the county prosecutor's office and they work out whatever the charges are. I wait. 2 days later, I get a call from the same sheriff and he says, you have to come down to the sheriff's office. I said, why? Well, because you need to sign paperwork. What paperwork do I need to sign? And he kept kind of going around. I said, what's going on? And he said, well, actually, there's a warrant out for your arrest.
Your arrest?
Yeah. I said, why is there a warrant out for my arrest? Well,
he signed one against you.
Right.
That's common. They do that to try and that way when they get to court.
Right.
You dismiss it, I'll dismiss it, and we go
right,
back.
But see, and this is what I said to the prosecutor and Montclair and the other people. I said, this is nonsense, and you all know this is nonsense. This isn't I said, you all encouraged this man and you accepted these charges from him, not because you think something was done to him, because I have a right to protect and defend myself, and you put me in that position. I said, you're doing this to keep from getting sued, because the other thing I had done is I had done a tort claims notice, and I served everybody, Glen, because y'all didn't show up the day after Montclair, and the county, because this had gone on for like 9 months. So they allowed him to file charges. And when you look at the timing, it's like I talked to them on a Tuesday. You all received the tort claims notice on a Wednesday. That Thursday, I get a call with their charges against me. So it was, right? So we get to court. And I'm like, okay, fine. We're going to do a hire an attorney, turn myself in. They handcuff me, drive me down to from the sheriff's station to the county courthouse, take me up through the lockup, photograph me, fingerprint me, and everybody's looking at me like, what the hell is this about? This story's crazy. Even on the facts. So I started telling them what's going on, and like, oh really? So then some people are like, oh, he just wanted a date. Oh really? That's how you get a date? I said, but, and this guy is old. He's like 80 years old. He's an old guy.
Okay.
So, they look and we have whatever the conversation is. I come back and now I've got to defend these charges. So the first times we go to pretrial conference, they're trying to get me to dismiss the charges. I'm not dismissing the charges.
Good for you.
I said, this is not a matter of an inconvenience or somebody having a misunderstanding. I was stalked, harassed, and attacked because you all didn't do your job. And I told them, I said, the only reason you're doing this is because you're trying to avoid a lawsuit. I'm not playing that game. So we kept going forward, and then when I would not agree to dismiss it, even the judge, we can't get rid of this. No, we can't get rid of this. And
this is down at the county level.
This is down at the county level.
Okay.
So we, at the last pretrial conference, and I told my attorney, you need to set this for trial. Even he was trying, you need to let this go. No, I'm not going to let
When is this at this point?
This is like August 2009.
Okay.
So, so they set it for trial in September of 2009.
Oh.
So like I said, it's been almost 7 years to the day. And the prosecutor told me, and my attorney that I'm talking to me told me, that if I didn't drop the charges against Cummings, that they were going to do a calendar control. They were going to hold the charges against Cummings. They were going to take my matter to trial first. And if I was tried and convicted, they were going to seek maximum jail time and maximum penalty. And I'm an attorney. I was going to lose my license to practice law and, my career and all of that since I refused to drop the charges. I said, okay, take your best shot. So we went to court, and they did. They calendar controlled it. And they held his charges. He had a public defender. He drives a Mercedes, an old Mercedes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have no understanding as to how, if you had charges first against him,
right?
What is calendar control? Like, how does that work?
Well, this is why I tell people, and I'm an attorney, right?
That's why I was hoping you can explain this, because it makes logical sense.
Which is why, and I don't know if, and I've sued. I filed suit in March, but I'm sick, so this has turned into a whole nightmare for me. Because, and here's what I told them: you all have all sorts of civil rights violations going on, right? There's a gender violation because, and now that I know, I've done the research because I've been monitoring, doing the research, and talking to people. 3 African American women have been killed in the township of Montclair since 2008.
I would actually thought it was higher, but you have the one right here.
Right, you have the one who was just killed a month ago.
Right here.
And then there was one a month ago. They found her body in Newark.
That one I know.
And then the girl at the Y.
The Y, and then you have a woman in the building right here. One of the buildings right here.
I didn't know about her.
A year or two ago.
I didn't know about her.
Her boyfriend, husband. If I had a chance to look it up,
I didn't know about that because the only way I get the information is from the paper.
It was all over the paper.
Was it in the paper?
Yeah,
okay. And I actually wound up leaving Montclair. I felt, it really got bad for me. I had PTSD now and probably under the stress and all that worked on me. And then the woman who got killed in Canterbury Park.
Right, by the guy that she was going into the army.
Right. He killed her.
There's one right here, if not right here on Woodland, it was like Willowdale or one
okay, I didn't know about that one.
Let me find it and I'll show you.
Okay, so it's a problem. And there's a general proposition right now, and I'm born and raised in Baltimore City, so I'm not timid, right? I'm not, people are like, oh, you're too sensitive. No, I'm not sensitive. I was born and raised in a major urban city, right, which has a reputation for being violent. The stuff that's happened to me,
I would point her in your direction to show you the strong, so don't get me wrong.
and I'm like, this is not me being overly sensitive. What you have is an environment where they are not protecting the rights of women and girls. And I could tell some of the stuff that the women were saying, what? Even this stuff is really weird. Like, you get a good contractor and you share information, you refer people. The women down here that, who are my neighbors, they refer contractors to me who came and they were doing work. And these men tried to rape me or tried to kiss me in the house. And I had to ask them to leave. And so the lady's like, well, how did he work out for you? Well, he didn't. I had to ask him to leave because he sexually harassed me in my house. Oh, yeah, he tried that with me. I had to have my nephew. Exactly. Why would you refer such a person? And I tell people, this has been consistent. So there's something in the mentality around here with, you're kind of fair game. And now I know. I didn't know then because I'm busy. I'm an attorney. I'm running a business. When I came up, I worked in corporate America. I'm busy. I don't have time for all this stuff, right? I got a life.
You don't deserve all this stuff.
And I don't deserve all this stuff, right? I'll defend myself if I have to, but I'm not going to looking for trouble. But now I know there were things, even by the time I moved in to the house, I went to close it on the house on like December 9th, and I moved in on December 31st. My parents and my nieces and nephews came up and helped me do the move in. People were stopping by. Oh, I didn't know you had kids. Oh, I didn't know you were married. I thought you, I'm like, what? By the time I moved in, they knew my name, where I worked, what I did, how much money I made, and that I was single, not marrying no kids.
The whole neighborhood.
The whole neighborhood.
That's
so
scary.
I've been targeted since I moved in. And again, there are levels of what do you do, right? But guys would come around. Oh, I'm gonna cut your grass. No, you're not gonna cut my grass. Or they cut it. You owe me $45. I don't owe you anything. I didn't tell you to do that, right? One guy came. He worked for the township. He came and took my storm doors down. What the hell are you doing, Tom? So now I know, right? I understand this has been stalking and harassment. It wasn't something I had, really experienced before. And, Yes, annoying, but do you call, stop, get off the, blah, 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 right? But now it's clearly a pattern.
And right
and this guy Morris, but he's violent. You know, we can stand there and I can yell at you till the cows come home. I'm a lawyer, I argue for a living. But when you get in my space and you threaten to hit me and you put your hand in, completely different ball game.
Absolutely.
And this is what this guy's doing. And I've called the township, I've talked to them, I've sent letters. The politicians don't respond. The police don't respond.
Well, this guy, what's his background?
Well, it's my understanding.
Does he have a connection to the town?
Well, here's what someone told me, you know, and it's gossip, and and I'm not from Montclair. I don't know.
Right.
A lot of these people here, they've been here forever, and there are nuances that you don't know when you're not from a place, right?
Yeah.
You know, because where I'm from, in Baltimore, right, any place, you know, I can call and I can talk to somebody back home or meet somebody on the street and they'll tell me something, but I know my community, I'm like, oh yeah, and I know who the players were and what was said, and what, right. Because you're from the environment, right? It's like living in a house with people, you know the personality. What somebody told me is that he is the relative of someone who either is or was on the town council. I don't know if that's true.
Well, it's easy to find out.
But I've communicated with a few people. One of the ladies on the road, Shirley, she was one of the first people to tell me she used to have a dog. She doesn't have a dog now, and she had a little fluffy. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's a poodle or I guess it's not a poodle because they're really the big ones, but a little fluffy white dog, and named Cinnamon. And she stopped walking in the park because he would harass her. Him and his dog would harass her and Cinnamon. So she was actually the first person who told me. And I used to consider Shirley to be a relatively reasonable person, but she was the one who also referred the electrician who tried to kiss me. So now I'm like, okay, whatever. But when I went to her after he attacked me and asked if she would be a witness and go to court, and she says to me, no, because, no, she didn't say no. She says, well, I'll have to think about it. I think he's the brother of my best friend. I was flabbergasted. Well, it seems to me this problem is solved. You call your best friend and you tell her brother has issues. Yeah. Somebody needs to speak to him about the way he treats women, particularly in public. He can't stay and do what he wants to people. So she refused, she never got back to me, and I didn't push. I was like, so, your maybe means no, if you're interested, you get back to me. So that's what I've been told, that he's a relative of somebody on the town council. But this has turned into a whole nightmare for me. I got PTSD, agoraphobia. I moved out. I rented my house. They tore my property. I rented my house to another guy who, and I still believe, he was trying to steal my house, this guy, Tom Britton. I called the police, and he was in here doing electrical and plumbing work. You're a tenant. You can't do electrical and plumbing. No. Right, no, right. I mean, none of this stuff I'm saying is unreasonable, right? And this is how I talk to people.
Paint a room.
No, right. And under his lease, he had asked for permission to do that. We negotiated this, and I gave him permission to do that. That was fine. But you can't do electrical and plumbing work. So he's calling me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I mean, for the 2 months he was here, it was a nightmare. I call him. He leaves me a message that he decided the electrical system was miswired and he's going to fix it. No, you're not going to fix it. Send him an email, send him a text, even a voicemail message. He evasive. So I sent him a letter, formal letter, certified mail. All of the lease violations he has, and I'm coming in with my contractors to do inspection, maintenance, and repair, right? Because he's complaining about all the stuff. He starts leaving me, kind of threatening email messages, with text messages. And I called the Montclair Police Department. Before I came up from Maryland, I called and asked them if they're going to escort me into the house, if it would be a problem, keep the peace, right? Because I'm concerned for my safety. Sure, when you get here, calls. I called them when the door opens and they come in and they see the tenant is white. And I believe it was biased. They flipped the switch. What are you doing here? Doesn't he pay you rent? And he wasn't even here. His father was here. And so they're big, you guys are big guys.
He's not even a tenant.
Right. And you're big guys. Why would you walk behind me?
Just with escort.
Right, no, but he's talking to, they're talking to the father. And what are you doing? And they said, okay, guys, you're not going to harass me. I'm not playing this game with you all. You need to leave. No, the father wants us to stay and protect his son's property. Okay, I'm here to protect my real property. If you break something responsible, I know that. That's why I'm going to take pictures. You can't take pictures. So they escalated that. They called a bunch of people, 6 cars to send. The captain comes and they're talking, telling me, well, I can't do it again, nosy neighbor. Won't you come back if they're right? No, they're not right. I know what my lease says. I know what the law says. Well, I'm not going to stand here and argue the law with the I'm the only one standing here with a law degree. That is not going to happen. So then everybody's offended, right? Feelings are hurt. I leave. I go to file a complaint in internal affairs. One of the officers started to follow me. Then he, turned off and came back. So they stayed in the house.
Day? He followed you up?
Yeah, he started to, but then he turned off. So this was that Tuesday. So the thing with the tenant went off over a course of 3 days. And I'm telling you this for a reason, because there's a pattern. I go and I talk to to, ask for internal affairs, determine nobody's available, talk to a sergeant. Sergeant Post was there. And I explained to him why I'm there. I left because I was being harassed. You all didn't respond then. Now you're harassing me about this tenant being in my house. I leave my property. You guys give me grief. I'm here to do inspections, maintenance, and repair. I called and asked before I came if you would escort me in to keep the peace.
Right.
I wouldn't be here if you hadn't said yes. So I've scheduled these people for a whole morning, took 3 hours, drove up from Maryland to do all this, plan all this stuff around this. And here you all are going to harass me. It's not going to happen, guys. My patients are gone. Well, you have a right to do inspection, maintenance, and repair. As long as you come at reasonable times, you give them notice. All that was done. I sent him a letter. He got it. Return receipt, certified mail. He got it at 9 o'clock in the morning. He waited till 11 o'clock the next day to call me to talk about it. At night. To call. Right. See, this is what I'm telling you. No. Right? People are like, oh, no, I'm not being unreasonable. There are reasonable human behaviors. You don't call, with friends, it's 9 to 9, right? Business 9 to 6. Why every time there's a problem are you calling me at 11 o'clock at night, Mr. Tenant? Right? No. It's harassment.
Right.
Right. And you think, no, you're going to
reasonable belief and reasonable suspicion don't allow what normal other people would do under the same circumstances.
Right. No. And after a few interactions, this is a pattern. This isn't a one-off oops mistake. Oh, let's do this. This is a pattern. So they apparently, and I have the dash cam from that day, but the conversation with their father, they blanked out, so you can't hear what they're saying. But I told the town, I said, I'm going back to my house tomorrow morning with my contractors because that's why I'm up here. I have booked a hotel, I was spending the night, I scheduled this whole 2 days around this to resolve whatever these issues are. Because every week I'm getting a call from this guy, that a system in the house is broken, the radiators don't work, the water won't drain, the electricity is going out, right? I've never had those troubles in my house. My previous tenant didn't complain about that stuff. So either he's just making stuff up, so at some point in the future, he can have some kind of a claim, or he's damaging the property. So I come back the next morning with the electrician, and I came and I parked. The electrician was scheduled to be here at 8 o'clock, and I parked about 5 minutes before in the front, and I waited. Instincts told me, wait until the electrician comes. So the electrician comes, we come in the house together, and I tell him what the tenant told me he did. And I was like, I don't know all of what's going on, but I need you to do some kind of inspection and give me a sense of, is the electricity okay? Does it need to be replaced? Right. Because as an owner, right, if there's a problem with the electrical system and the house burns down while he's in here,
it's on you.
It's on me. So the electrician is doing his thing, and he started and I know he replaced that outlet, the tenant didn't, so the electrician started with the outlet. He opened it and he told me, well, what he did in here is not correct. It's not grounded properly. He's made it a fire hazard. I said, okay, you need to fix that. So while I'm talking to the electrician, Montclair police shows up. Yes, gentlemen. Is Tom here? No, Tom is not here. That was the tenant. Well, where's Tom? I have no clue. Are you the landlord? Yes, I am. So they knew, right? They knew the information. So they run me through this drill.
Code 4, just getting background.
So they run me through this drill. And I said, you know what, gentlemen, my patients are gone. I'm done. I'm not going through this with you all again. I went through it last night. I would be in my house, but for the fact that you all allowed a man to stalk and attack me. You're clear about whose rights you're going to enforce and protect. We're going to settle this in a different way. You will get sued because this is a civil rights violation. I'm not continuing to play this game with you all. You need to call your dispatcher and find out where Tom is. He's not in the house. So, and I asked them for their names and badge numbers. And they turned their back, so I can't see. Right, yeah, it's juvenile. That's what I'm telling you, it's juvenile. It's set up to...
Unprofessional.
Right, yeah, they got all sorts of issues, right? And this is consistent with them. This isn't a one-off deal. This is consistent with them. So he turned his back, and I said, are you going to answer me? And the one guy, Saviteri, I think it was. Saviteri. You can see the badge. Well, how can I see the badge when you turned your back? You can see, okay, clearly you've got issues. You need to step off of my property and leave me alone. So the other guy, I'm talking to my dispatcher. Okay, can you give me your badge number and name? So he does that. And the dispatcher tells him that Tom, and I know this now because they had to turn over the tapes when they arrested me for that. So the dispatcher, he called the dispatcher called Tom, found out where he is. Where are you, Tom? Oh, I'm parked up the street. So he had parked up the street and watched the house and waited for me to come in the house.
Down by Marston.
I don't know exactly how far down he was, but he could see me.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't see him. I didn't.
Right.
And the street normally doesn't have a lot of cars, and I actually don't remember any cars other than mine being on the street that day. So it's pretty interesting. But wherever he was, he saw me come in with the electrician. So the dispatcher told him he had to come down to the house if he wanted the cops to help him. So Sabatieri stepped to the bottom of the staircase. The other officer, I can't remember his name now, went and to the driveway and was talking to the tenant and his father. Again, the neighbors are out. So Connie, Shirley, Marion, Laura, and they're looking. And the other officers asking Tom, what's going on? Well, she's confrontational, she's this, that, and the other, and, you see how she is, and he's telling me, she showed up to do this inspection, right? And so the officer kept telling me, why is the electrician here? And they had already talked to the electrician. Are you Tom? No, I'm not Tom, right? And the electrician had gone out, got stuff. He was in the basement trying to figure out what the deal was. He's not Tom. I said, gentlemen, I have a right to inspect, maintain, and repair my property. I am within my rights as a landlord. I gave him proper notification. Awesome. The only reason this is an issue is because y'all want it to be an issue. But we can have it be an issue because, again, you got a civil rights violation going on here. Major. This is just escalating. Right. So they're talking to Tom. And so the one officer, Sabatieri is standing at the bottom of the steps, and every so often he'll turn around and yell something. And I'm trying to talk to the other officer. And I was standing inside the door. I didn't go out on the porch. I was standing inside the door listening.
He's yelling things at you.
And the one officer's yelling at me. And the other officer's talking to Tom, so every time Tom says that, they turn around and talk to me. I said, gentlemen, again, we're not going to continue to do this. You have my version, you can do an investigation and have his version, and that's going to be it. There's no need for you to continue to have him say something and have me confirm it. He's the one who called you. You need to resolve his issue. My issue is resolved. I'm here to inspect my property, and I wouldn't be here but for the fact that he's in here damaging my property. He can't do electrical work. I have a right to do inspection, maintenance, and repair. So the one officer told him, yes, she's right. As long as she gives you notice, she can come in and do the inspections and maintenance and repair. Why is the electrician here? Ask him. Oh, I don't know. She didn't tell me. Well, this gets interesting because in a police report, they write in a police report that the reason he did the electrical was because he had called and reported to me that there was a problem and I didn't respond to him. Which is untrue. Wow. He called me like late on a Saturday, midday on a Saturday, and I was in the bed. I had had a tooth extracted. I was in the bed sick. But he called on a Saturday, and he didn't say, hey, there's a problem with the electrical. You need to see an electrician. He says to me, there's a problem. I did an inspection. I determined it was miswired. I'm going to fix it. That's different. That's not landlord, we got a problem, you need to come fix it. Because, of course, if there had been a problem.
You would fix it.
And even if I couldn't get to him, if there had been a problem and it was an emergency and he fixed it or he called somebody to fix it, you're grateful.
Sure.
You solved the problem. Okay, I would rather to have been in control of that, but yeah, thank you. Here's the check, right? Right? No, this isn't about me being unreasonable. It was about him thinking him and his family thinking they were going to take my house and the police department backing him out. So they had apparently told him to call them and report me for trespassing when I showed up with the electrician, which is what he did. And he started telling the police, again, because I had it on tape, she kept telling me she doesn't care what the police said, she doesn't care what the police said, she can come in her house whenever she wants to. Well, yeah, that's kind of true. I mean, I've got some boundaries there, but it's my property, right? If you don't want to comply with the terms of your lease, you need to leave my property. You can't do whatever you want in my house. So the police get upset, and they call, so the one guy, Sabatieri, called somebody on a cell phone, which I thought was interesting because you're supposed to be on your radio. So he's calling somebody and they're whispering. And the other guy is talking to Tom. So here comes another sergeant. Interestingly enough, only Sergeant Ramito showed up. So unlike the day before where there were like 6 people, now we got just the 3 of them. Sabatieri, Ramito, and this other guy. So I noticed that right away. Because if they're on the radios and they're reporting they got a problem, people come. Because you got somebody out there now watching and make sure you're okay, right? I understand the system, right? No, everybody wants to be safe. Not a problem with that. So Ramito gets out of the truck and goes up to Tom and says, you want her out? Yeah, I want her out. So Ramito comes charging up the steps, screaming at me, says some things. He pushes me and almost pushes me over the rail. Opens the screen door. It bangs me in the back. I get a huge bruise in my back. He comes in the house, goes down the basement, and ejects my electrician. I come in and go upstairs to the bathroom. When I come back down, he's ejected my electrician. The electrician won't say anything to me. And Ramito starts screaming at me. He wants you out of here. You better get out of here or you're going to jail. And he grabs my arm and starts swinging me around like I was a rag doll. And I'm trying to get my arm free from him, and he grabs me. And you know you all do, pushed behind the back and body slams me into the sofa. So... Well, this sofa, the tenant had a sofa, so where my table was, the back of the sofa, and it was a hard edge. So I am permanently injured from that. So I have not been able to work, and I'm self-employed. I have not been able to work since April 2009 because of this BS. Between the criminal charges and being injured and moving 3 times to keep myself safe and developing PTSD and all that, right? So here I go from having a $200,000 to $250,000 book of business as a patent attorney, doing chemical work for the largest chemical company in the world, BASF, to having to go and apply for welfare next week because I've got $250 left in my account and I owe people. That was a bill collector calling, right? But I'm a victim. I can't work. You're traumatized. So somebody needs to do something about Cummings because he's not going to stop. And the Montclair Police Department has made it clear they're not going to intervene. They're not going to help. But this is what I tell people. It's not just me. There's a clear pattern in the town, right? I'm from Baltimore City. I can't name 4 women in Baltimore City that I know of who've been murdered, right? There's a problem. There's a problem with the way that the town is policing. And it seems to me that the majority of the murders that are happening here are falling on African American women. And I have a theory about that. I'll save it. This is going to show up in the complaint. But no, it's misogyny. And I have too many stories of where you're just out and about in public doing stuff and men take it upon themselves to do something. At the 2008 elections, I was at the polling station. My polling station is the, I guess the community center of the school.
Right.
And the lines were long, so you're out there, you're talking to people around, you're making friends and you're chatting about stuff. So when we finally make it into the building after being outside for a couple of hours, I look for the lady who, and she was a small woman like me, she was actually smaller than me, but she was an older lady, probably in her 60s, my mom and my auntie's age. And I look for her and she's like, I'm like, well, what happened? And I see this little hand, right, through the doorway. And I'm like, what the heck happened? There's a guy there who's bigger than you. He had taken his whole body and crossed it over the doorway and wouldn't let her in. And they said to her, you don't need to come in here. There's nothing in here for you. And I'm telling you, this is a standard in the town. So they've got a problem. They've got a problem.
When it comes to Maurice Cummings, I saw you walking over here on Douglas. He's even said things to you over here.
Yes. And where he comes from, and you see, that's what's disconcerting to me, right? And it kind of,
the main reason I'm saying, I don't mean to cut you off, is that way when I write my report,
yes,
it's happening in Glen Ridge, and I
it's
can articulate
yes, and it is.
That's why I can articulate as to why
right, yeah,
I'm
the past few kind of escalations have been on the Glen Ridge side. Okay. I don't call Montclair for anything.
When was the last?
So we had today, I called you all last Thursday, which is why I called today. Last Thursday, I walked down Ridgewood. Ridgewood. Because I go to the post office in the morning. So I had gone down Woodland, gone to the post office, walked down Ridgewood, and that little street, Oak Road. Oak. Is that Oak?
Old Oak.
Old Oak. So I crossed over and gone up Old Oak, and I got, I don't know, maybe a third of the way up Old Oak, the first house that sits on the left there. There's a big house and then the first one that's open. So I get there, and I hear a car behind me, and I turn around and jump. It's him. And when I jump out the way, he screams, "You ain't nothing but a no good black stinking bitch." And that's what he says to me. And I have a video. I can see the video. If you give me an email, I can see the pictures in the video. And he's, "You're no stinking black bitch. You're no good." And I'm startled, right? And the first thing I do is I grab my camera to take pictures, and then so he goes off, and of course
that's so impressive. Nobody. I'm so glad.
Right? He drives off before I can get the picture. Same thing this morning. And then I walked and I called you all, and I, went on and came home because I didn't want to be on the street. But after I thought about it, he was on the wrong side of the street.
On Old Oak.
Right, because I'm on the far
left. He crossed the road to come over and get close to me.
So he was behind me.
The intent just shows you.
Well, I wonder if he wasn't trying to run me over. Because I jumped. I heard the noise, you see, and I jumped. And because I jumped back and I was kind of in line with the bushes, if he had hit me, he would have also run into the bushes, so it would have been clear. But he was on the wrong side of the street.
Obviously. Yeah. And then today?
And today I saw him I was coming down Woodland, crossing over to go to the post office, and I saw the car. And I saw him parking. So I turned on my phone because I'm like, okay, if he's true to form, he's gonna call me, no good black stinking bitch. But this time I'll have him like in the car saying it. So for whatever the reason, and then mind you, I have him one time saying it. One time in last October, I think it was last October, I was in Glenfield Park, And I had walked my whole walk, and I had come down Willowdale and was crossing into the park to make the last loop. Because I can't do aerobics anymore because of the fibromyalgia. So I need to, but I have to, and I've gained like 20 pounds since all of this started, and I need to lose. Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Tell my closet. Anyway, we're financing a shopping trip at Antilles. But, and I need to get the weight down. I'm actually pre-diabetic too, so I need to get the weight down. So I have to walk, and that's the only thing I do. So I was doing the last part of the walk. And as I crossed into Glenfield Park, on kind of, that area of Willowdale, there's an opening. And, and I'm kind of zoned out, zoned out, and I wasn't expecting him to be there. I'm never expecting him to be there, which is just concerning. I'm like, how does he get that close and I not hear him? But I look up and I see the dog first, and actually I thought it was a squirrel, but when I realized it was a dog and I looked, and he was further down in the park. So he had apparently unleashed the dog then and sent the dog out. So I taped it. I took out my phone and I taped it. I stopped moving, I taped him. And there was a guy in the park, and I got the guy's attention. I said, excuse me, sir, I need you to pay attention. This gentleman here has been stalking and harassing me, and he attacked me a few years ago. I'd appreciate it if you would keep an eye out while I go in the other direction. He said, and he was startled because it's stalling. And he's like, well, oh, okay, no problem. So, I went in the other direction. And so, and of course I had to come here to get home. So I assumed Morris was going to leave. But I went on around the park, and when I got to the side behind the ballpark, he was there. He was there. So I took out my camera and I taped him. And I have him on the phone saying to me, you ain't nothing but a no good black stinking bitch, or something to that effect. I mean, variation of that. But see, and that's how you know he's unstable. Who is going to let you take a video?
And still say.
Right? And that's harassment. There's no reason.
Yeah, harassment, but it's
right. I mean, with the other stuff, it's stalking. But if it was only that one incident, if he had only taken it the one time, yeah, I'd be irritated. But even that would qualify as harassment, right?
Absolutely.
So, but for him to have done that with me with the camera going is fine. And so, I put it up on the internet. It's probably down now because I didn't have time to keep it up. But that kind of slowed him up for a while. So this morning at the post office, somebody must have said something to him, because he started to say something when I had the camera running, and then he didn't say anything. And I went in the post office, checked my P.O. box.
So when you were going, you saw the car and you went in the post office, is he by the bank?
No, he was getting out of his car.
In front of the
post office. So he got out of the car, and he looked like he was going to say something, but I turned the camera on, and he stopped. And the dog didn't bark. And here's how I know when the dog is coming after me and the dog is barking. It's because he's prompted the dog to bark. Because the dog doesn't just bark if he sees somebody. Some dogs don't bark, when they see you, they just bark. The dog doesn't do that. So the few times the dog has barked, he had to have prompted the dog to bark. Because even this morning, the dog didn't bark. So I go in the post office, I check my P.O. box, and I stand, kind of near one of the counters where the papers are, because I didn't need to go to talk to anybody. And when he came in the door, because I didn't want to bump into it, so I went come in the door and I watched to see, he got in line. And I went out, and I kept my phone, and he turned around, and he started to mumble something. I put the camera up, and he stopped talking, and he turned around. So I left, but I kept my phone out. I said, because he may come out. Right. So I walked down the street. Now, mind you, and this is what I told me, he's following me. He was parked in front of the post office going towards Bloomfield Avenue. Okay. So for him to have, he had to have made a U-turn, which he does. He'll see me, he'll make a U-turn, and he'll follow behind me in the street. So he made the U-turn, and he came down Ridgewood Avenue. And I had, I thought he would be on me faster. I'm like, if he's coming, I'm going to be ready. Right. And I had just kind of relaxed. And then he comes, you ain't nothing but, and he was really angry this morning. He started screaming. And the house where I was, there was a car coming down the driveway. So I stopped, and I was getting my camera ready, and he saw the car, and he zipped off. And that's when I called you on. Okay. So he's actually getting a little savvier about somebody just in the past year or so. So I don't know if somebody said something to him or what. But I have at least one video of him.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a harassment. And what I'm going to do is, obviously, everything you said to me about what occurred in Glen Ridge, I'm going to refer to the fact that there is an ongoing dispute with him going back to 2009 with the attacks. I'm going to mention in there that you're not comfortable going to Montclair Police due to an ongoing issue. So all I'm going to put, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, let me give you my card, and I'm here till 6 o'clock tonight. Okay. You're doing everything right. I understand you feel like you're not. We're on this, and I don't want you to feel any other way, especially from me being here right now. I'm proud of everything you have done.
Well,
Stand by
thank you.
and keep going by what you're doing.
Okay.
600 head coach, can I get an incident number? What kind of car does he drive?
He drives a black Mercedes.
Black Mercedes?
Mm-hmm. Give me a second. Let me see if I
Sure,
can.
let's
28361. 28361.
Race it. I'm gonna be back in momentarily. I'm gonna write a few lines. Ongoing harassment.
See, I got tons of stuff. So this is from one of the earlier. Let's see the 911 call. Keep track of the dates. Trying to find the photographs. See, I want to hire the PI. The criminal crap when they charge me. So now I'm allowing criminal.
So what was the final disposition? Oh, WZG 533.
You didn't take that.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. Especially I want you to hold on to it because when our detectives follow up with you, that's great evidence, especially with the hat and everything like that. Explain why.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the report. Oh no. Where's the? Can I have the PI's report? And the private investigator, it's not on his report, because I sent him the tag number, because I sent a letter. I sent this letter to the Essex County Sheriff's Office with this picture and pictures of him and the dog. And they, again, they kept telling me they couldn't identify the guy.
That's common for motor vehicle offenses. Like if you saw someone driving crazy and you wanted to issue a ticket against them,
Yeah.
here's the
That's
plate, and
right.
then they say, okay, we pulled them over, or you can't just
Right,
blanket.
right.
But you clearly.
I have a better one in color. So that's him, and this is, he's calling the dog back to him to put the dog on the leash. And and I understood that.
Right,
I understand evidence, so I wasn't surprised about that. But he's the only person I've ever seen driving the car.
In this case, this is a criminal side. It's not a traffic side.
Right, and he's done it in front of other people, and that's why I say there's a tone in the town, because it turned out one of the first woman I rented my house to, Veronica. I can't say for sure that she moved a guy in here, but every time I came to do something or called to check on something, there was a guy named Larry who was here. Well, Larry knows Morse. So after, right, see, and now I'm like, this is all related.
Yeah.
So, hear me, kind of, right? It's just not how I think. That's not how I operate.
And you wouldn't have known.
Well, and so one of the days I was walking, this was last summer, I was walking up Bloomfield Avenue to go to the Pathmark. And then again, it's pretty early in the morning, when stuff is happening. So probably about 7 o'clock, as soon as the sun, comes, I put my gear on, I go do what I got to do, and come back and get dressed and try and do some work or whatever it is I'm going to do for the day. Last year I was sick. I was just trying to be fed and not in pain. But I'm walking up the street. I see the guy Larry and leaning into Morris's car, talking to him. And Larry's talking to him, and he leans over. So, somebody's kind of blocking the window, but he leans so he can get a clear shot of me. And he starts calling in, "You ain't nothing but a no good stinking black bitch. You ain't nothing but a no good stinking black bitch." Larry thought it was the funniest thing. He starts laughing. I'm like, okay, this is not my imagination. Another time so sometime in the spring of last year, I think it was April, and it was kind of midday. There was a guy, and I don't know who the guy was, a guy parked in a SUV in the park. and there were kids on the basketball court. You know, it was actually a fair amount of activity. And Morris's dog was running free. And there were some girls, pretty young girls, looked to be like 9, 10, 11 years old, sitting on the benches. And they were hunched up like this on the bench because the dog was running under and running towards their legs, and they were like this. And I'm like, okay, he's intimidating those little girls. And you got these 2 grown men sitting there intimidating the little girls. And I looked, and I started to go that way and say something for the sake of the girls. I'm like, you know what? I can't say anything because this is why they make you have a criminal record, because then if something happens, you're the violent criminal, right? And it looks like this. So I looked at him, and he was smirking and talking to the guy in the SUV, and clearly they were discussing me and the situation.
And he's enjoying scaring
right
other
there,
girls.
Right.
Nice.
So it's not just me,
Right.
right? And that's what I keep telling people. It's escalated with me because I'm an attorney. I know my rights, a different kind of personality, and I'm not intimidated per se by the system. I didn't expect it to work out this way.
No, I don't.
But it is what it is. But what that means, though, is like I said, they've got a problem. They've got a problem with, dealing with women and enforcing their rights. And here's what I told the township: you got a major fair housing violation. It's against. It is, I'm telling you.
No, I wouldn't know.
It's a fair housing violation, right? You cannot deny services to people in a community in order to drive them out or oppress them with their rights, right? It's a fair housing violation. And I've been telling people, you guys got a major fair housing violation. And here's why you care. Because if I make the fair housing violation claim, you don't get any more federal money.
Ouch.
Right, and you see all the signs going up. And so now they're finally listening. Because I've written to some senators, I'm like, here's what we're going to do. You need to start paying attention to them. And yes, Montclair thinks that they are above the law. They are not. And they're playing games because the U.S. Attorney, Paul Fishman, lives in Montclair. Jay Johnson, the Director of Homeland Security, is from Montclair. Right? Nia Gill, the Senate for the New Jersey Legislature, is from Montclair.
All the prosecutors.
Right. I said, so y'all think you've circled the wagon to prevent this issue. And I said, and that's probably why they do some of the stuff that they do, because they think that because all the politicians and the bigwigs are here, y'all are going to protect one another. But that's exactly why you have a problem. I said, I said, and these other folks in the south end of Montclair, that's historically been the black part of town, that you have harassed and oppressed for all these years, right? And you've created criminal records for them from the time that they were teenagers, so people question whether or not they, were valid and could have been successful. That's not my story. Because I showed up in Montclair as a grown 40-year-old woman with 3 degrees from the best schools in the country as a patent attorney. You don't turn to a life of crime at 42 with a $200,000 book of business, right? I said, so y'all gonna have to, you got some explaining to do. And I called you. Here's the other thing. I called you and I gave you every opportunity to do what you are required to do. Oh, we're helping you. No, you're not helping me. I'm a taxpayer.
And you didn't back down.
And I didn't back. And I'm not going to.
No.
Because it is. It's a fair housing violation.
And I told you, I commend you.
Right. And I said, and if I'm not going to fight.
Who is?
And do who is? Mm-hmm. And maybe God gave the battle to me. That's a whole different story. God sent me this house.
I love that thought.
Thank you.
That's me.
I appreciate it.
My name's underlined there.
I appreciate it. Thanks for listening.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Okay.
Please know, and I mean it with all sincerity as a father, and
yeah.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, again, especially if it happens with us, you call us.
Okay.
Tell the dispatcher. He just did it again.
Okay.
He just went this direction. I mean, you know the north, the south, the east, and the west. Especially, we know he lives on Orange Road. We know which way he's probably going to go. And we'll do there. If we catch him in the car,
good.
Explain it.
Good. Thank you.
Charlie Roberts again. Pleasure to meet you.
Same here.
You want me to take this one?
Yeah. I'll take it.
Sure.